The Bay of Bengal is geographically configured to be a trap. Bordered by India, Bangladesh, and Myanmar, its shallow northern waters form a sharp, triangular wedge. When severe tropical storms enter this bay, the surrounding landmass acts as a funnel, compressing immense volumes of water into a lethal, rising wall. On November 12, 1970, this unique geographical vulnerability combined with absolute administrative failure to produce the deadliest tropical cyclone in human history. In a single night, a massive storm surge would completely erase entire island populations from existence, leaving an estimated 500,000 people dead, and triggering a geopolitical crisis that would ultimately fracture a nation. To understand the scale of the disaster, one must look at the low-lying islands of the Ganges-Brahmaputra Delta. In 1970, these islands, known as Chars, were densely populated by millions of impoverished farmers and fishermen who relied entirely on the fertile soil. Most of these islands sat less than 10 feet above sea level. Because there were no coastal embankments or concrete storm shelters at the time, the inhabitants were entirely exposed to the elements, separated from safety by miles of open water. On November 8th, a tropical depression formed in the southern Bay of Bengal. Over the next 48 hours, fueled by the warm ocean waters, the system rapidly intensified into a severe cyclone, packing sustained winds exceeding 140 miles per hour. Despite international satellite tracking confirming the storm's trajectory directly toward the crowded delta, the regional warning systems failed catastrophically. Bureaucratic delays meant that the red alert signals were never properly relayed to the remote islands. On the evening of November 12th, as the tide began to rise normally, the residents of the islands went to sleep. They were completely unaware that a 33-foot wall of water was currently rushing toward them through the dark. The cyclone made landfall at midnight during a high spring tide. This temporal alignment was disastrous. The astronomical tide acted as an elevated platform, allowing the cyclone's wind-driven water to stack to unprecedented heights. As the eye of the storm approached the coast, the wind shifted violently, dragging the ocean water inward. On the island of Bhola, the sea did not rise gradually. It arrived as a violent, breaking wall of dark water traveling at immense speed. In total darkness, thousands of families were awakened by the sudden, deafening sound of fracturing timber and rushing water. With no high ground to escape to, people scrambled onto the roofs of their fragile mud and thatch homes. But the structures were completely inadequate to handle the hydrodynamic force. Within minutes, the storm surge leveled thousands of homes, sweeping entire families out into the churning currents of the Bay of Bengal. The only survival mechanism left for the islanders was to climb the few large palm trees that resisted the surge. 4 hours, terrified survivors clung to tree trunks in absolute darkness, battered by 100-mile-per-hour winds and freezing rain. By 3 a.m., the surge reached its maximum penetration, drowning over 40% of the population on the most vulnerable islands. In places like Hatia and Tazamuddin, more than half of the residents perished in less than 4 hours. When dawn broke on November 13th, the water began to recede, exposing a landscape of complete devastation. The fertile, green islands had been turned into barren fields of mud and debris. The physical destruction was total. Over 85% of all homes in the Delta region were completely destroyed. Along with the human toll, over 1 million livestock animals had drowned, contaminating the fresh water supplies. Survivors who managed to live through the night now faced an equally lethal threat: starvation and cholera. Because the islands were completely isolated by water, there was no immediate way to transport food, clean water, or medical aid. The international community reacted with immediate alarm, but the central government of Pakistan, based thousands of miles away in West Pakistan, responded with severe apathy and bureaucratic inertia. It took 3 critical days for the government to deploy a single military helicopter to the disaster zone. Relief supplies sat on tarmacs while survivors on the islands drank brackish water to stay alive. This administrative neglect turned local grief into intense political fury. The leader of the local Awami League party, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, utilized the disaster as undeniable proof that the central government viewed the people of East Pakistan as disposable. In the general election held just a few weeks later, the outraged population voted overwhelmingly against the ruling regime, securing a landslide victory for the opposition party and setting the region on a direct path towards secession. By March of 1971, the political breakdown escalated into the Bangladesh Liberation War. The cyclone had acted as a geopolitical catalyst, transforming a natural catastrophe into a civil war that would ultimately redefine the map of South Asia. When the conflict concluded, East Pakistan was no more. The independent nation of Bangladesh was born from the mud and ruins left behind by the Bhola Cyclone. The tragedy permanently altered global disaster management. It forced the implementation of advanced satellite meteorological networks and the construction of thousands of multi-story concrete cyclone shelters across the Bay of Bengal. The 1970 Bhola cyclone remains a dark milestone in human history, a stark reminder that when geographical vulnerability meets political neglect, nature's power can easily dismantle empires and reshape nations overnight.